everybody in the room, and welcome, including members of the media. Your Excellency, Vice President Marquez, the delegation that is with us here accompanying you, honorable ministers, deputy ministers, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. Firstly, I'd like to once again extend my warm greetings to you, Vice President, and also your delegation that you have brought with you from Colombia. I also wish to express my distinct honor and delight to welcome you to South Africa. This is a very historic moment to us, and I'm confident that you will enjoy your stay, although very short. I would have liked for you to stay for a week, but I know that you have a very busy schedule. You still have to go to Kenya and Ethiopia, but we are happy that you started here in South Africa, which is the country that you have been looking forward to come to the home of Nelson Mandela. Vice President, we consider your visit significant in many ways, especially as we begin to reactivate our bilateral relations following the election of the new administration of President Petro last year. We want to offer our warm congratulations and best wishes to President Petro and the government and the people of Colombia. I'm particularly pleased that, my first official visit, this is the first official visit that I'm receiving as the new Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa. So I'm particularly pleased that this official visit is with yourself, and the fact that you chose to start here in our country. Your Excellency, our meeting today, as I said, is a historical one, and there has not been this kind of high-level engagement between our two countries since the establishment of our diplomatic relations. Even more so for us to host the Afro-descendants and female Vice President of the Republic of Colombia. We are very pleased indeed. We are much honored, Your Excellency, and welcome this progress in our endeavor to have more women leaders. We are also trying in South Africa, a lot of women ministers you'll see, and deputy ministers. Your Excellency, this meeting also represents a significant milestone as we meet today to lay the foundation and roadmap for bilateral and multilateral cooperation between our two countries. Our countries share similar values of democracy, peace, resolutions of conflicts, sustainable development, the rule of law, and the reform of multilateral institutions, and we're looking forward to be working with you on this. These shared values provide a good basis for building strong, result-oriented, mutual beneficial relations that will contribute to addressing our national development priorities. Your Excellency, to this end, I look forward to our discussion on ways to achieve a pragmatic roadmap for bilateral cooperation in a number of areas, such as agriculture, defense, environment, mining, science and innovation, sports, arts and culture. I was telling the Vice President earlier that I used to be a Minister of Arts and Culture, so arts and culture is, always close to my heart, and it's something that the Vice President and I have agreed that we're going to push hard for that kind of people-to-people relations. I often say, Minister, that you can have trade relations and everything, but the key for me is always people-to-people relations. Let's reconnect with our values, values of Ubuntu, because we know that Colombia has the largest population of people of African descent. So this visit, Vice President, is reconnecting us, not only as South African Colombia, but the African continent. It is imperative that South African Colombia, as progressive countries of the South and other like-minded partners, should strengthen our resolve to advance the development agenda of the South and global governance reforms with a view of renewing and pursuing our collective global commitment to the achievement of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I'm particularly pleased with the government of Colombia's policy to reactivate relations with the continent, Vice President. South Africa further welcomes your commitment to contributing to the success of the African Union's Agenda 2063, as our continent is advancing peace, security, and development in Africa, in particular to achieving the goal of African continent free from war and conflict, but rather thrives on development. Once more, Vice President, I would like to reiterate my profound appreciation to you, your delegation, for visiting our country to map a path for bilateral and multilateral cooperation. I now invite you, Madam Vice President, to make your opening remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you for receiving us in your country. Thank you to all the government of South Africa. And of course, thank you to all South African citizens and South African society who are welcoming us today. I come with a delegation of government representatives from Colombia, led by our Minister of Culture, our Vice Minister for Higher Education, Deputy Minister of Tourism, and different representatives of the Colombian government, together with a large delegation of artists, entrepreneurs, chambers of commerce, and media from Colombia, who are also with us and who, of course, I would like to greet. I would like to tell you that this visit for us, after 26 years since the last delegation from Colombia came to South Africa, came to the African continent, is indeed a very pleasurable moment for us, but also a vision as a national government headed by our President Gustavo Petro, which is the connection of international relations between peers, and of course a connection that is South-South. south. A connection that requires greater connection with Latin America and the Caribbean. And this historic moment for us will also help us address challenges that humanity is facing, multiple crises that we are facing at the moment, such as climate change, which, as we know, may be very well addressed for the good of humanity in a South-South dynamic. We acknowledge the hard work done on the African continent on the issue of loss and damage that this continent has had to suffer due to climate change, which are exactly the same effects and consequences that Latin America and the Caribbean are seeing. Therefore, strengthening our relationships will allow us to acknowledge the fact that Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, even though we are not the main emitters of greenhouse gases, we remain nonetheless the regions that are the most affected by the effects of climate change. This, of course, is not independent from a colonial vision that still prevails on this front, connected with the deep roots of colonialism and slavery, and that still affects humanity. So we would like to connect with the work that has been pushed for by South Africa, which is freeing humanity, as great Nelson Mandela taught us. This is part of our shared vision with you. We have adopted a strategy between Colombia and Africa, 2022-2026. This is our vision, and we hope that we will be able to strengthen our cultural relations, different strategic relations to fight climate change, strengthen our initiatives to recover food sovereignty as well. You mentioned agricultural production, and we have a lot to share, which has to do, of course, with science and technology, technological development, and technological exchange that we will be able to carry out between both countries. It also entails scientific cooperation, scientific development with the specific experiences of each of our nations, which I'm sure will contribute to providing answers to the challenges that humanity is facing, as well as our planet. Of course, being a woman of African descent, I was saying a moment ago, I am very moved, emotionally deeply moved, because I am coming home to my ancestors' land. And in that sense, we would like to work together with you on the reconstruction of our historic memory that would allow us to heal all the descendants that have suffered not only slavery, but also structural racism that still prevails in many of our nations and that harms little boys, little girls, men and women who have had to carry this load of slavery. And we know that South Africa, as regards historic reconstruction and memory, everything you've done on the issue of remembrance has a lot to teach to our region in Latin America and the Caribbean, and Colombia especially. We would like to work together with you through education, the arts, and culture. As a woman, of course, I am interested in strengthening our diplomatic ties as regards feminist foreign policy. We would like women to be able to be further empowered. Female leadership needs further empowerment in order to dignify the humanity of women throughout the world. Lastly, I would like to thank the welcome that you have given us. It has been absolutely wonderful thus far. Your Excellency, thank you, and thanks to the whole of your government. We would like to invite you officially to open up a working group, a work table that could be embodied by an official South African delegation to Colombia through a state visit in the close future. Colombia has opened its doors to you so that you may open an embassy in our country. This is fundamental. If we want to work on reconnection, we will need those diplomatic structures to support us. When we travel from Colombia to South Africa, we have to wait for a visa to be granted from your embassy to Venezuela, but we lack a direct connection. I therefore believe that this connection would be very important, as well as an airline connection and trade connections, so that we can build these different ties. A commercial flight between our countries would certainly help strengthening the personal relationship that you mentioned, Mr. Deputy President. So these are most of the issues that we would like to work jointly on with you. And we very especially, as you know, are building peace. We are well aware of the great experience of South Africa on the topics of peace and reconciliation, and we would like South Africa to support the dialogue process as a guarantor country with the National Liberation Army, Colombian guerrilla group, and we would like South Africa to be a guarantor country in this process. This is a very important process, not only for Colombia, but for the whole of Latin America and the Caribbean.
Thank you very much, Vice President. We definitely accept your offer for us to visit Colombia. We'll be discussing that with Minister